What you know, Joe?
I don't know nothing.
What you know, Joe?
Tell me something.
Jake. It's funny, you know, I don't remember the music to the show.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was Jake and the Fat Man.
Yeah.
Starring
Joe Penny and William Conrad.
William Conrad.
And the most flatulent dogs in Hawaii.
Wow. And how do you find dogs like that in Hawaii?
Well,
They have to eat scraps, I would imagine.
No, not this dog. This dog just had to be awake. I'll tell you, we should drift into that part of the story because it's almost an aside. I used to keep an office right across from CBS Radford. So most jobs in the freelance producing come up suddenly.
Yeah.
I very rarely get 2-3 weeks or a month prior notice. I get a day, 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-day weekend. Ending on Monday was Christmas that year. And I'm in my office and it's Friday and it's 5:30 in the afternoon. And my phone rings and a guy on the other end says, Joe, how are you? Okay. He said, you ever worked in Hawaii? I said, I've been there half a dozen times and never worked there. And he got quiet. And I know exactly what he's thinking. Had this been Tuesday at 11:30, he would have said, well, you know, I really need a guy who knows. But it's Friday. It's 5:30 on a 3-day weekend. And he got me on the phone, and I have a pulse. He says to me, would you like to? I says, what are we talking about? Well, I said, a thing called Jake and the Fat Man. We did a year here, but we're moving to Hawaii, and we hired a guy, but he's not really a producer. He's a good writer and a good guy, but okay. Monday morning, Christmas Day, I'm on a plane going to Honolulu. And I go, and when you go on location, you make a deal, get so much money to live, so much to eat, right? Not, you know, just to cover your expenses.
Yeah.
It's not a profit center. It's just you don't have to lose money.
Right.
I get to Hawaii, and I think I'm just going to go into some hotel, and they drop me off in this building. It's a high-rise in Kahala. It's the biggest, most expensive building in Hawaii. And they take me up to the 17th floor. There's only 4 apartments. It's almost the penthouse. I think the penthouse was 18 and I'm on 17. So I called back to, I says, listen, there in no way in hell my per diem is going to cover this. And the guy says, yeah, well, one of the reasons you're there, and he's not, is when he got to Hawaii, he signed a lease on a $6,000 a month apartment.
Wow.
But the problem, Joe, is we're only going to be there 6 months, but it's going to cost us for 12.
Wow.
He says, and I can't explain to the bosses why we're spent that kind of money. Would you please live there?
Wow.
Don't throw me in the briar patch. Well, all right, Mike, if you really insist. But, you know, it's really So here I am in Honolulu with a, God knows how many square feet. 2-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, living room, den, 180-degree balcony, you know. One side you're looking at the Diamond Head, the other you're looking at the Kahala Hilton, the hotel. They used to call it the KahalaWOOD Hilton.
Yeah.
Because you'd run into everybody from Hollywood you were trying to get away from
Right.
was by the pool there. So I'm there, and turned out they couldn't get actors because the guy who I replaced, he never signed a contract. So on the day I got there, I get a call, and the woman's name was Margaret Dovasola, a Polynesian woman the size of Delaware, but I loved Margaret. She was something. You got to come down here and sign contracts, or we won't have any actors. So down I go to the AmFac building, and beginning in Honolulu, and I spent the rest of Sunday night. By the time I went home, I couldn't move I must have signed 200 contracts.
Yeah.
But, you know, Hawaii is the only place I've ever been that's prettier than the postcards.
One of the reasons that, and you mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to talk to you about, because this is a slightly different scenario because of the location. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to Woodland Hills,
Right.
You're not going to Hollywood.
Right.
We're talking about now taking an entire production into Honolulu.
Right.
We have pre, post, actors, production, Teamsters, all of that. Tell me about how that is a very different experience for you.
Well, I didn't set up the show. I got dropped into the show.
Yeah.
And in their rush to tell me and make a deal and get me over there, they also neglected to mention that the Teamsters were not all of the same mind, by which I mean Art Rutledge ran Hawaii. He was a friend and compatriot of Gil Beck and Jimmy Hoffa, and he was the real deal. And 399 with Teamsters, you had to get their trucks over there, and a lot of guys who shipped their trucks had worked for Art, and they expected to stay with their rigs. They were expensive, they're heavily invested, and they know how to drive them. Art wanted his guys, and it caused a lot of friction. My job as a producer is to keep the show running,
Right.
not to settle union disputes, and to keep the actors from knowing just what was really going on. And I could do a separate, as you know, I could do a separate thing about my time in Hawaii, but I will keep the positive sides. I loved Hawaii.
Yeah.
Jackie Cooper, I don't know if you know who that.
Yeah.
He came over. He was one of the directors. I got friendly with him.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and William Conrad was in the Radio Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and it was interesting because I was working with legends.
Yeah.
And Jackie Cooper, who was a good director, probably the most production-friendly director, and it was interested in why him particularly. And it's because he spent, from the time he was a child, he was on the set, and his best friends were the assistant directors. Those were the ones who look after him,
that makes sense.
And so he had this great affection for production people.
Yeah.
And he was part of history.
Yeah.
So I loved what I used to do. Because of where I was a block away from the Kahala Hilton. So for 6 nights, I lived in my apartment. But come Saturday, I would take the least expensive, wasn't that inexpensive, but it wasn't ocean view. It was, a hotel. I'd take a room, and I would go over to the Kahala for the night, and I'd go down to the Malay room, and I would have dinner by myself. Remember, just the thing was to break the tension of the show.
Yeah.
But on Sunday mornings at 7 o'clock, I would have breakfast with Jackie.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'd have the whole place to ourselves. Hawaii, quiet, me and Jackie on the patio having breakfast.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackie Cooper, child actor during the golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like his story was pretty positive, right?
Yeah, very
He's no
positive.
longer with us, correct?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But he was another one. Knew everybody from the golden era. It's like
Yeah.
William Conrad. I love talking to these
That's
guys.
crazy.
But I would have breakfast with Jackie, and then 9 o'clock go back up to my room and crawl back into bed. And I mean, I did nothing. So Sunday afternoon, I'd go out by the pool, and I discovered early on that the kids who ran the cabanas loved film.
Oh, wow.
So I would say to them, come down on the set when your day off, and I'd put them in a director's chair.
Oh,
and
cool.
So by the third week, if I was up there by the pool on a Sunday,
Total hookup.
and you were going to go rent a raft, and before your tush got it, Josie, zap comes a raft, and we fall on the sand. Right? And when my daughter came over to visit, there was a girl there named Stephanie who used to feed the dolphins, and Jen at that point was maybe 5 or 6 years old, but she'd stand next to Stephanie and throw the fish to the dolphins.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a very cool job.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's a great place. And so, trucks shipped to Hawaii,
They were barged. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's expensive.
and there aren't
You
trucks
can't
in
drive
Hawaii?
them. You can't drive
Or
them.
they're because they're Teamster trucks.
Well, they don't have that many 40-footers. It's
Okay.
It's not a hotbed of production. I mean, they did Magnum PI
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
they did. And CBS's mentality was that Hawaii itself was good for 5 ratings points. Because in the winter, same thing with Love Boat, in the dead
Yeah.
of winter when everybody can't go out because of the snow.
Yeah.
Here's people on a ship,
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
people on the beach in Hawaii. So they used to think Hawaii was worth it. But we had quite a few trucks and quite a few Teamsters.
Yeah.
Art was interesting. I think I told you this story. He picks me in the height of our dispute. He came to the set one day. He goes, Joe, I'm going to take you for a ride. I say, I'm a kid from Brooklyn. That may not mean to you what it means to me.
So let me roll back though. Clarify the dispute.
The guys wanted to drive their own trucks,
Gotcha.
and Art wanted his people on them.
Right.
Which
Oh,
meant,
gotcha.
and if our guys weren't driving, they'd have to go back. They wasn't gonna be on vacation there for 6 months.
Yeah.
And they weren't about to just leave their rigs.
Yeah.
It should have been ironed out beforehand, but
Yeah.
so often in this business, you hear the word, they're picking up the pilot, and everybody
Rushes
goes.
in, yeah.
So, and I didn't have a dog in that fight. I mean, all I care is that, that we can shoot. But I really didn't want any azido for the actors, because actors, and particularly
They're
Joe,
sensitive.
and Joe Penny, this will take us into a whole other direction. But Joe didn't want to be there. I didn't want Joe or Conrad to know of any, dissension. So when Art, to show me how much power he had, he picks me up. We go around. We went to the back of the airport. We're just sitting in the cargo area. And I don't want to be rude to the guy, but what are we doing here? And we're just watching the trucks, the planes unload. We sit there about 10 minutes, and he drives up to the DOT, Department of Transportation. We're sitting across the street, and we're watching buses go in and out, and I'm thinking, unless he's having a meltdown, why am 10 minutes, we drive up to Waikiki to the hospital. We start to drive up the Crescent, and we move around and back, and his truck's coming in and going out. Finally, I said, Art, what are we doing? And he said to me, I just wanted you to know, if I say so, this will all stop. And I thought, okay, that's the definition of power in Hawaii. And I said, Art, I love you like a brother, but I can't solve this dispute. You're going to have to get the guys from Hollywood down here to work it out. So I was trying to keep him happy, trying to keep the show running, isn't everybody, we're on Hawaii, and I'm thinking to myself, Maron, any minute this thing could go off the rails.
Yeah.
So that's one of the joys of being on location.
Wow.
But I tell you something, another quick little thing. He had a daughter, Anna. At night, we had a kid from University of Hawaii, would come in for 3 hours, help us with paperwork. He was a trainee. But I would ask him to go 1 block to Kings Road or King Street and pick me up wonton soup.
Yeah.
That would be my dinner.
Yeah.
One day, Anna comes in. He says, you know this kid who works for you? I said, yeah, he's a nice kid. Yeah, she's going to have to put a car and driver on him. I said, to go get a wonton soup. He's working for you. You're going to put a... So I called. I said, you're killing me here. I'll go without the wonton soup. Are you really going to want to put a car and driver on this kid? And he laughed. He says, how do you like that? He says, and he waved the car and driver. That's the only negotiation with Art Rutledge I ever won.
Wow.
He was a tough guy, but I admired him. I really did. He ran stuff, and he knew stuff, and he was fair. We didn't get overcharged. Nothing got damaged. Nothing got lost.
So at the beginning of this, you mentioned you had a canine companion.
Wasn't my companion. When they sent everybody to Hawaii, somebody forgot that if you're going to bring animals, they got to go into quarantine.
Right.
So they wanted to send this bulldog that was a principal in the show, but they couldn't get it into Hawaii. So we had a cast for a bulldog in Hawaii.
Wow.
Well, the lady, we found the right dog. This lady was no fool. She knew she had us. This dog didn't drink water. It drank Perrier, thank you very much. This dog didn't sit on the couch it had its own pillow. But this dog also had a flatulence problem. And when this dog teed off, you could go to the beach, man. I mean, so
What's the dog's name? Do you remember the dog's name?
I don't remember, but I could see it, and I could see it.
Oh, my gosh.
It always looked like it was smiling at me.
Oh, my gosh. And so everybody would clear out on Saturday. It would just be one of those, like a bomb go off.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my God.
Fortunately, the dog didn't work every day, or we'd still be there.
So with a show like that, how long did that run?
Well, it ran another year after I left, and then I think they brought it back to the mainland.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, what happened with me was in order to stay there, my children were of a school age. I could probably have gotten them into Punahou as a visiting fireman. But that meant I would have to hang around Hawaii May, June. So
Right.
it was, didn't want to do that, couldn't do that. If I went back to LA, my children would be on location and I'd be by myself in
Yeah,
LA. So
yeah.
the timing was not right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. And then what was the last TV show you produced?
That's a good question. I think it must have been Seventh Heaven.
Oh, okay.
I think it must
Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
Seventh Heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in between, I did movies of the week. I did
Right.
pilots. I did a show in Europe. I did a show in New York with J. Preston Allen. She was a brilliant writer. She wrote Prince of the City. I think she was one of the creators of the original Family. She worked with Mike Nichols. I think they put us together. I think an executive at Lorimar said, who could we put in the room that will kill each other? I know. We'll put Joe and Jay Allen in the same room, and one of them will die.
Yeah.
Well, I was scared of her, and she was scared of me.
How funny.
And the result was we got on like two peas in a pod.
Of course.
I loved her. She was really, really brilliant.
Yeah.
But so I got to jump on a plane and go to New York. What's the first thing I say to Eddie? Eddie, that's an expensive city. You know, it was the original Don't Throw Me in the Briar Patch. I'm from New York. I knew my way around. I had friends. Anyway, so I had to get a place to live. So I guess somebody at Lorimar hooked me up with a woman named Dawn Wells. And Dawn Wells had an apartment. It was a rent-controlled apartment on 72nd Street and 2nd Avenue. Brilliant location if you're going to live in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't know is that she was the daughter of one of the Andrew sisters.
Oh, wow.
So I commit to this apartment, and they give me the keys, and I go to New York, and I open it, and there's pink drapes and pink mattress and pink wallpaper. It was, I think it was, I don't remember which one of the Andrews sisters. Oh, on the pictures of Ann Miller and Alan Cranston, who was governor, but I guess in his early days was a hoofer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was living in this very, very girlish apartment.
Funny. Crazy. Yeah. Well, Joe, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for your time. That was a lot of fun. I look forward to the next set of Joe-isms.
Oh,
we're going to get on that book.
Maybe I won't do a show. I'll do all the.
We'll have fans call in and ask. But you came out for the heat. That was cool.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Thank
Bye.
you.